Well, the Supreme Court of Appeal President Mandisa Maya is one of the four candidates in the running to be the country's next Chief Justice. Maya is the only woman contender for the position and, if appointed, would be the first female to hold a position. For more on this, let's take a look at this profile.
All right.
Mandisa Maya is a pioneer in the judicial field, a woman of firsts. She was one of the first women judges on the Eastern Cape High Court, the first black woman on the Supreme Court of Appeal, the first woman deputy president, and later the first woman president of the SCA. And if appointed as the next Chief Justice of the country, she will be yet again the first woman. Justice Maya was born in 1964 in rural Eastern Cape. The trailblazer worked as a court interpreter and prosecutor before joining the Women's Legal Defense in Washington, D.C. As the country moved into democracy, Maya worked as an investigator for the Independent Electoral Commission. She then practiced as an advocate before becoming a High Court judge. Maya then moved through the appellate divisions and acted at the Concourt as well. Justice Maya is a firm advocate for women. When asked on transformation during her 2017 interview, she told the JSC it's a question that she's been answering since her first judicial interview.
17 years later, and we are still asking the very same question, and it's very worrisome. Where do I begin? I think in the judiciary, what we can do in the short term, because there is a shortage of women judges in the High Court, in the SCA, in the Constitutional Court, and in the specialist courts. And I think I gave the same answer last time. There is no shortage of magistrates who are judicial officers right at the coalface of disputes. There are women academics, and I think we have not tapped enough.
At the helm of the Supreme Court of Appeal, she's turned the appellate court into one of the most efficient in the country, which some in the legal fraternity feels makes her the best candidate for the next Chief Justice position.
The front runner for the vacant post of Chief Justice is Judge President Maya of the Supreme Court of Appeal, who will become the first woman Chief Justice in South Africa if she is appointed.
Justice Maya is definitely one of the big contenders. I think, as you rightly point out, we have never had a female Chief Justice. So that might be a weighty consideration. But arguments against her appointment is that, she has been doing such a great job at the Supreme Court of Appeal, and it's only been a matter of about 4 years, and that court could probably benefit more from her leadership and stability, or leadership stability for a while. But of course, the president might want to be seen, or might want to be the first person to ever appoint a female Chief Justice, and then that counts in her favor.
There are people whose judgment we rarely come across. Who allocates? How is the allocation done? Is there something that you need to do differently about case allocation at the SCA?
Case allocation at the SCA Chief Justice is one of the key targets of my vision for the court, if I'm appointed, if I may call it that. What I've been doing in any event in the almost past 2 years.
Justice Maya is set to be the second candidate to be interviewed by the Judicial Services Commission, which is set to be chaired by the Deputy Judge President of the SCA, Kola Petse, in the first week of February. Hasina Gori, SABC News, Johannesburg.
With over 3 decades of experience as a lawyer and judge in South Africa, Judge President Dunstan Mlambo may be a strong contender for the vacant position of Chief Justice. He is one of the four candidates who will also be interviewed by the Judicial Service Commission next month to take over the reins from former Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. For more on this, let's take a look at this profile.
Honourable Justice Mlambo is a veteran of the South African legal system. Over the last 30 years, he has distinguished himself as a legal authority. And as a former chairperson of Legal Aid South Africa, he has extensive experience in establishing and managing a legal aid system. His name is among the 4 candidates who were shortlisted by a panel chaired by Judge Novatheng Pillay after public nominations which were invited by President Cyril Ramaphosa. They are Honourable Judge of the Constitutional Court of Appeal, Judge Mandisa Maya, Honourable President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, Vuyiseli Madlanga, and Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Honourable Judge Mlambo spent considerable time in the Labour Court as Acting Judge and then as Judge President. He was particularly critical of the practice of labour brokering, which deprives employees of labour law protection. In November 2012, former President Jacob Zuma appointed Mlambo as Judge President of the Gauteng Division of the High Court. One of Mlambo's most notable cases was in the 2014 Oscar Pistorius murder trial. Despite the defence team's objections, Mlambo ruled that the entire trial proceedings may be broadcast live via audio and that parts of the trial may be broadcast live via television. The parts that he permitted to be broadcast audiovisually were the opening and closing arguments, the testimony of consenting state witnesses, the judgment and the sentencing of Pistorius. The ruling was welcomed by members of the South African media who described it as a groundbreaking decision supporting freedom of expression, freedom of the media, open justice and democracy. When he took office as Judge President more than a decade ago, Mlambo vowed to improve access to justice for all. Should he be appointed as Chief Justice, this may likely be his continued focus. However, it's not going to be a walk in the park, as he has to face grilling from the Judicial Service Commission and parties in the National Assembly. Saya van der Walt, Potgieter, SABC News, Johannesburg.